Hello guys, so I wanted to do this video on something that I think is familiar with all of us, and certainly one that I'm receiving quite a few emails on, and also I talk to people quite a lot when I'm out here, and it becomes a proficient part of what I'm hearing from a lot of people. And that is this feeling that we often have through most of our lives, the feeling of a void, that something's missing from us. And although on the surface our lives can appear like they're quite healthy or they're quite good, or we'll go on holiday and we've got a good career, a good relationship, there's something underneath the surface of that that's always there and always kind of troubling us, and feels like we're missing out on something, and we can't quite put our finger on what it is. Now, I'm not going to say that I've got the answer to what that actually is, but I certainly have a knowledge of what I found out that it was for me. And so I'm going to share my little bit of experience on that, and hope that it makes some of you, whilst you're in the throes of dark night of the soul, or even if you're just down, hopefully it gives you a little bit of breathing space to think maybe something similar is what is happening to you. Now, of course, the feeling of this was happened to me when I was spending hundreds of hours on my own. And just so you know, guys, I journal everything. Everything is, these videos are also a form of me journaling. So I journal absolutely everything, and I find that is a real decent way for me to get my emotions out, to get my feelings out, and also to learn about them. But it's also a good record for me to look back on. So as and when I'm doing these videos and I feel like there's a topic I want to talk about, I can go back into my journal and really try and transport my head back into that time, and really try and grasp how I was feeling there, and then try and relay that over to you guys. So these are my experiences of what was happening to me. Now, this was about 2.5 years ago. And I remember kind of walking around and feeling really, that feeling, that void feeling was there, this missing feeling. And I'd had it all my life. I'd had my spiritual awakening, and now I was still having it. And it was something that I was kind of looping in my head at the time. And then I realised that what Dark Night of the Soul is obviously the stripping of the ego. So it kind of dawned on me that what was missing was me. And that had always been missing, was us. We're missing from ourselves. And so I realised that that was what was happening to me at that moment in Dark Night of the Soul. It was very simple, that I was actually just missing me. Of course, not only are you going to miss yourself, but you also don't really know who you are at that point. And so because of that feeling, I started to then realise that underneath those feelings of the missing, there was feelings of like a somberness, almost like a sorrow, a sadness, a deep sadness, not depression, like a sadness. Then I started to realise, and this was quite a profound moment, that there was a part of me that quite liked it. I don't know if you can resonate with that or not, but whilst I was down, it gave me something familiar almost. The feeling of feeling down had become familiar to me, or the feeling of feeling down under the surface of the pretend joy. It was familiar, so it kind of felt good. And off the back of that, I then also started to realise that because I was enjoying it, that come from me almost playing the victim part. So I'd be playing the victim of the person that was down, because that was a familiar thing. I hope that makes sense. And I hope I haven't rushed too far ahead of myself there, because I sometimes worry that I've done that. So underneath all those feelings, the void feeling, I think all of us have as human beings, we have a way that we want to reach out to something. And some of this stuff goes on unconscious in us. And it's just the brain's way of maybe wanting to survive. And so we kind of get forced into do things that we don't even know we're doing half the time. And so underneath those feelings of something missing would be the somber, the sorrow, the guilt. There was the guilt underneath there, the guilt that I had never truly met myself. And I remember it being these real moments of, I'm playing the victim, but I don't know that I'm playing the victim, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But there's also a part of me that, whilst my body is down, was playing the victim. And I think it was playing the victim because, and you have to look really careful for the victim, but I think it was playing the victim because it wanted my body to really just relax. It was trying to say to me, don't come out of this area yet. You've not detached from your ego enough. You've not learned enough about yourself. You've not uncovered everything that it is that you need to do. My body has not resolved the issues that it thinks it needs to resolve. And I think I fell into this trap of playing the victim because, in a roundabout way, an unconscious way, my body was keeping me stuck in the dark night of the soul, because that's where I needed to be. I needed to stay there. And I've said this to you guys before in other videos, that whatever you're feeling right now and wherever you are is exactly where you are meant to be. Now, I want to come forward a little bit because I want to try and give you something to maybe, so that you can ponder on it yourselves. Don't detach from it and don't attach to it. Just let it be there, because these things have a way of coming out of this. If we try and force them out, like we try and figure it out in our head, we're not going to get there, because you end up looping. You chase the same thing over and over in your head. And at the same time, you don't want to distract and go for a run or go to the gym. Sometimes you just got to go for those long walks and feel the downness, feel the sorrow, feel the somberness, feel the sadness, and just allow yourself to feel that without really thinking about it. And you'll find things just do. Your body and your mind has this natural way of healing itself. And you'll see today I'm out in nature. You can hear the birds singing and the squirrels running around. I do this every day, guys. I go somewhere every day. We need this environment around us to heal. That's not it's non-negotiable in your healing process. If you're not getting out to nature, or doing your best to get out to nature, at least go and sit in a town park on a bench by the trees. If you're not doing that, your healing is going to take a lot longer. But I digressed off topic a little bit there. But what I wanted to do was explain the part about the victim. What then dawned on me, and I've got this wrote in my journal, and it's brilliant. Maybe I'll take snapshots of some of my journal and put that out to some of you guys if you're interested, so you can see what I was writing at the time, and also how bad my handwriting is. But I remember thinking to myself that if I'm capable of playing the victim whilst I'm down, whilst I have all this other stuff going on, then I'm capable of playing the saviour. I'm capable of playing my own hero and getting myself out of this mess. And that's when it dawned on me, and I've said this in another video, that's when it dawned on me that whilst I'm down here, and guys, I was in a bad way. I was in a bad way. And I'm trying to say that, not to frighten anyone, but to let you know that's where I was. And I know there's a few of you there, because obviously, guys, you're messaging me. But that's when I decided I was going to make it a mission to get myself better, to come out the other, to find my way out of this, and then do videos, or then get a message out to people and let them know how I done it, and just hope that it can help some people out there, because there's good people out there that are struggling and suffering, and sometimes it's needless. Other times, when we're in darkness, night of the soul, it's needed, but other times it's not needed. And that was kind of the differences in areas that I wanted to share with people, to share my knowledge and my experiences on that stuff. But that was a huge part. And it wasn't like I was engineering these thoughts to come up in me, like, oh, how can I solve this problem? How can I stop playing the victim? No, it's just long walks, lots of quiet time, and it just suddenly dawns on you. It's like you know the answers from within, but you've got to stop. Or this is my take. I had to stop stopping myself from being who I needed to be. it's like the old ego kicks in and stops you from doing things. It makes you question everything and want answers. And I started to realise that. And because there was this faint voice that was saying to me, Tobe, you need to get, and when I say voice, guys, I mean like a strong feeling, not an actual physical voice. There was this thing inside me that was saying, Tobe, you need to find a way out of this. When I had that feeling of, I need to find a way out of this, that's when I knew I was okay, because I was still thinking rationally. Obviously, I was thinking rationally because I had an ability to want to come out of it. And so I think if any of us actually go past the point of wanting to come out of it, we kind of want to stay in there, that's maybe when we should start talking to someone else, you know, a spiritual therapist. I can do another video on spiritual therapists and coaches and stuff like that to give you guidance on who you could go to talk to and stuff. But that's when I knew I would be okay, because as much as I felt down and I felt very vulnerable with my own thoughts at times, and there was a period of a little while where I didn't actually know if I'd be here much longer, that's when I thought, I'm going to find a way out, make this a mission, and I'm going to put this across to you guys, and I'm going to share this with someone, because I know that my experiences are helping someone somewhere. I know they are. And that was what gave me that way of getting out of that. And I'm hoping that kind of works for some of you lot. But there was also other feelings that were going on at that point. I also remember that before the victim feeling, there was, like I say, the void. There was a part of the void in me, the missing part, that was like this feeling of guilt. There was and why I'm saying there was a feeling of guilt is because sometimes that missing part, you feel like you're missing something, there's a void. So we're trying to establish what the void was, and those two things in me were the victim and also the guilt were what I thought was the void. How can I say this? The guilt and the victim mode were the void. They were the void. Those feelings of those two things were the void. But in my brain, and maybe in your brain, we're thinking that there's something missing. And this is why I say sometimes we have to look under those feelings. I actually realised that I wasn't missing anything apart from myself, my true self, but it was feelings of guilt mixed with a victim. And it's nothing's actually missing. It's these feelings here. And what the guilt created in me was this immense guilt of, once I'd realised what I'd been doing to myself my entire life, it was the guilt of, how did I let that happen to me? How did I let life get that deep? How did I let it become that serious in my head that I would allow myself to be sabotaged by outside and also self-sabotage in order to fit in order to be loved or liked or to not stand out? Of course, now, I think I said in my last video, standing out is maybe what we should try and aspire to. Who wants to be like everyone else? I don't. I like to try and be me at all times. And that's what spirituality is, by the way, is it's just being who you are and speaking your truths. But there was the guilt underneath. There was that whole guilt of, how did I allow that to happen to myself? And it was from those moments on there when I came into that headspace of, I was almost annoyed, almost angry at the world at that point. That the whole system, the whole conditioning, everything mum and dad had said to me, everything nan and granddad had said to me, everything friends had said, everything I'd watched on TV, music I'd heard, things I'd read in the paper, conversations I'd overheard from people, but atmospheres and tensions in the air that I could feel, passive aggressiveness all around me, my whole entire life. And you become, for a little while I was quite angry that had happened to me. That had happened to me whilst I had the ego. That's what I'm trying to get at. When I was in the matrix still, I then was looking back with that anger of, why did that happen? And it was all those kind of feelings during the dark night of the soul now that brought me forward to that place of I could see the victim and I could see the guilt I was carrying. So I felt guilty of myself, if you like. And I realised that to move on, to actually move on from Dark Night of the Soul, to move forward just a little step, I'm going to have to make finding me my mission. I was going to make it my mission to learn everything. And from that point on, that's when I started to journal very, very deeply whilst I was out in nature, like I am today, out in the woods. It's beautiful. And it was whilst journaling that so many thoughts come out. And let me just digress quickly here, because journaling actually is not something I've mentioned before, and I'm only mentioning it now because I'm sharing a little bit of my story with you guys. When I'm now, all of you know I'm dyslexic, and I'm also the thick child. Don't forget that. That's always kind of comes up in me, that I'm the thick child. So when I had first heard someone saying journal, and this is on the YouTube somewhere, that someone said journal, my instant reaction is I'm not writing nothing. I don't do writing. Anyway, I got so desperate that I actually thought I will start writing. I'm going to write in my way. And I'm only saying this because some of you might be really good with writing. You might be very creative with your words. Great, go for it. Just write how you're feeling. But for me, I started journaling just by simply writing down 1 or 2 words. So I might write down the date. I'd always do that, the date and where I was. And so sometime it might be 15th of August, Lake District. You know, and that's all it was. Underneath that, I put feeling shit, moody, angry, whatever the feeling was. And that kind of got me started. So sometimes I think we can mistake stuff when people say journal everything or diarise everything, that we've got to kind of write things in some sort of specific way. I mean, it doesn't need to do that. And then this is the idea in my videos. I always try and get to that point of sometimes the things that stop us moving forward is because we've overcomplicated it. Or maybe some people in videos or I don't know, in books that we read, they overcomplicate things. And when they say journaling, then they show you a photo of their journal and it's all these different entries and this, that, and just write in there, feel like shit, not sure why. Maybe it's this, maybe, and then it will flow. And if it doesn't flow, you've just at least wrote down that you've got some idea of where you was on that day. And then when weeks and months go past, you look back, which is what I do when I try and do these videos. I look back, and then that creates, a lot of time, guys, that's quite painful as well. So be aware of that. Painful, but it's in a nice way, because I've healed, you are healing, and that's what you're doing, is healing. So when you go back, it can be painful for that moment, but it's quite a nice pain to revisit. Or that's kind of how I feel about it anyway, because I know I'm not going to stay there, I suppose, and I know that I'm coming out, and it's also a great way for me to measure how far forward I've come. I don't think there's anything else to say on that. I just wanted to share that little bit with you, because I know when you're stuck deep down in that place, it is quite terrifying and it's quite awful to do that. And as the guy talking on these videos, I think sometimes maybe it's important for you to know that I have been to the real bottom, and I did pull myself back out of that. And I just have to say on this note, guys, these videos are never about me. And I think that's why sometimes I struggle with them, because I'm trying not to make it sound like it's about me. I'm trying to make it sound that my experiences and give that over of what I've learned. So it's always about it. It's not about me. But sometimes I suppose I feel I have to tell little parts of my story, and I know some of you have requested that as well, so that's probably why I'm releasing the last couple of videos, told you a little bit more about me, because if that's helping, if you want to hear more, if you like hearing stories about me as such, I can do that. I can open up with that. Anyway, guys, I'm going to draw that to an end. I hope that was interesting. I hope you took something from that, or it gives you food for thought. I'm out in the woods today. It is a beautiful sunny day here. You hear that bird? That's why we got to get out in nature. It's so cool. But there's this beautiful, beautiful sky. I'm in the woods. It's nice and cool. There's no one around. And this is a woods that's just on the outside of a town that's got about 150,000 people in it. And there's no one here. That shows you how far society has gone away from nature. how over 4.8 million years we evolved in this. And so now we chase after things that we think are going to make us better indoors. And there's a spider just landed on the screen. We now chase after what's indoors, and we don't get outside, but our bodies actually physically need what is out here. So forget the mental health. Mental health goes without saying outdoors. That, I think we all know that. But physically, our bodies need this. This is why sometimes when you can look at beautiful sunsets when you're out and about, beautiful skies, or you just go for a walk through a park with your partner, and sometimes you can just be, oh, this is nice, and you're not quite sure why. Well, that is why, because your body reacts to it. Anyway, I digress there. So I'm not digressing anymore, I promise. Guys, I love every single one of you. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you get out and enjoy this beautiful sunshine, or I hope it's sunny where you are, if you like the sun, that is. And anyway, right, peace. Thank you so much. Okay, so I just had to come back and fill you in with this one last sentence, because I remember this sentence repeated over and over in my head, and it really helped me out. And that was, I kind of got to a point where I thought, I need to stop trying to figure out what's wrong with me and start figuring out what's right with me and work on those. And that gave me a real boost, gave me a real jolt forward. At the time when I said I was going to make it a mission to get out of this and move forward, that was another thing that had come into my head, was that, and that was really important for me at that time. So I just wanted to quickly throw that in the video. So there you go. I hope that's not too glaring. Anyway, guys, love you. Thank you. Bye-bye.